What's up, you guys? Simon here. In this video, we're going to talk about the craziest thing that's happening since 2008. That's the bank industry collapsing, with several banks going under, including Silicon Valley Bank, as well as Signature Bank, and there are others. So in this video, we're going to talk about what this means, what's going on with the banking industry. I'm also going to give you some advice if you have a certain amount of money in the banks, how to properly potentially manage that or review that with your CPA or advisor. So before I get into this video, please like, subscribe. I appreciate it. It's free. Let's get into it.
Silicon Valley Bank is no more.
And in the last 24 hours, many founders, investors that I've talked to have been desperately trying to get their money out.
Our banking system is in a fundamentally different place than it was, a decade ago.
We need accountability for our regulators who clearly fell down on the job, and that starts with Jerome Powell.
The market did not respond like they thought, and the ramifications were that they were running out of money.
On Friday, in less than 2 days, it collapsed, and the government stepped in to take it over.
Silicon Valley Bank is nearby, guys, and it's actually about a 20 to 30 minute drive from my home. It was touted as one of the best banks to come out.
The ninth best performer year to date is SVB Financial, don't yawn. This company's a merchant bank with a deposit base that Wall Street had been mistakenly concerned about. SVB, it's the old Silicon Valley Bank, has always been a very good business. We recently bought one of our favorite research firms, Nathanson, and it's become less dependent upon private equity and venture capitalist offerings. Wait a second.
Jim mentioned that this bank was a buy. A lot of people thought it was a buy. A lot of people held money in that bank. It is a tech-driven bank, and the collapse in tech, led by the collapse in cryptocurrency, has really surprised a lot of people in the Silicon Valley area. So what has happened, and the reason why Silicon Valley Bank has collapsed, is people in the Silicon Valley area started withdrawing, or the bank started seeing a lot less deposits. With less deposits and people withdrawing money, they were forced to sell their bonds that they bought at higher prices to cover the withdrawals from the bank itself or to cover their operating expense, leading to the government or the FDIC shutting it down. Now, Silicon Valley Bank did get bailed out by the government. They did loan the money from the government. So there's been about $140 billion in loans to these major banks. And this is kind of crazy because the government did say they would cover everything over $250,000, kind of ending capitalism, but it's probably a necessary move because if the tech industry collapses, just like it did in 2001 and 2008, it could really hurt a lot of people. So right now, that 140 billion is higher than the 112 million that the feds allowed banks to borrow in 2008. So you see the recession that we are going to be experiencing is going to be near 2008 or even worse. The Silicon Valley Bank crisis not only has a lot of other banks shaken up. In the Bay Area, Marin Bank, or Bank of Marin, I should say, there's First Republic Bank, and there's probably on the list of about 200 other banks that are worried because their stock prices are also falling, which means they have less capital to sell off shares to cover some of their costs. So this is going to be an interesting concept. The big banks I have not heard are in trouble, such as JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citi, etc. And in fact, some of those bigger banks did give First Republic $30 billion to make sure that First Republic Bank, which is a bank I used to bank at and loved, would sustain itself through this time. However, that did not slow down First Republic Bank's slippage in the stock market. Their stock is down nearly 90%. So overall, at one point, Silicon Valley Bank set off a firestorm with not having enough deposits to basically cover their expenses. And there's been a fallout, right? So it's not just the bank, but Etsy, for example, would bank with Silicon Valley Bank. They could not pay the people that were making all these crafts, which really spreads like a disease and it leads to people being affected by not being able to make payroll or not paying their mortgage. So this is a total financial economic collapse caused by overspending, bad investments, and Silicon Valley is known to do that. They are flamboyant. They splurge on basically every single event. I've been to their events. They're over the top expensive, and they don't really save money. Also, the banks tend to lend money to tech companies at times without even proven results from the people that they're investing in. So will First Republic go down? It's very possible that First Republic will go down as well, which is a very known bank here in the Bay Area. I think it's even bigger than Silicon Valley Bank. So overall, if it does, that would be a sad story. And Goldman Sachs, because of all this and the banking industry collapsing, has boosted their odds of a recession within the next 12 months to 35% likely. World economies are in trouble. The US is no different. The banking industry here is already hit massively, and a lot of people are fearing to keep their money in the bank. In fact, it's kind of weird that you put your money in the bank. You don't know what they buy or invest in or what they do with your money, and then all of a sudden they lose your money and you can't get it back, or you can't pull it out, and you're only insured up to $250,000. That sounds a little shady to me. So you don't know what they're doing. You have your money there. You can't pull your money out. They lose it. No big deal. Sorry. The CEO of Silicon Valley Bank goes to his Hawaii home. That's a fact. So yeah, I guess when things hit the fan, go to Hawaii on vacation. So overall, the banking industry hopefully will get it together. But here are some things that I recommend that you guys do now in case you have over $250,000. This time the government bailed out this bank. However, what if they didn't? You would lose a lot of money. What if you have $5 million in the bank? You would only be covered for $250,000. It's insane. So maybe the safe thing to do here is to always follow the FDIC protocol. I think 250 grand is actually very small. It's not adjusted for inflation. I think it's been 250 grand for the last like 20, 30 years. And that's really not a lot. So I think the FDIC needs to reinsure itself to maybe accommodate clients with up to $1 million to reflect the current inflation values. The second thing is, if each bank is insuring up to $250,000, you may have to have multiple accounts to make sure your assets are safe. As I mentioned, you have no idea what they're doing with your money. They're taking your money, they're reinvesting, buying bonds and so forth, and hopefully they don't mess up and lose all of your money, because they're just going to say sorry and close their doors. Unfair as it gets. It's almost like there is no responsibility for the banking industry to make sure that your money is protected. It's insane. And there are regulations. However, I bet if the same thing had happened where you were investing in like a private equity firm, those individuals that run that equity firm would probably be charged for some type of fraud or scheme, and they have been in the past, right? So I recommend you dilute your assets. If you are on the wealthy side, good for you, congratulations. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that could use a sugar daddy or mama, but keep your money in a reputable bank, maybe a Wells Fargo, maybe a Bank of America, or maybe a bank that if you know something goes down like JP Chase, the government has to save. They have to bring them back up. They have to keep them afloat to make sure that the stability of the country does not fall apart. So pick a bailout bank. In fact, we should start a bank called Bailout Bank. That would be funny, because that's the bank that you want to bank at in case they're mismanaging your funds. So overall, make sure you pick a bank or several. If you have a good amount of money in your banks, dilute them and maybe have $1 million in Bank of America, $1 million in Wells Fargo, $1 million in JP Chase. This way, you are getting the opportunity to not have all your eggs in one basket, because when that one basket gets stolen, and that's what this really is all about, theft, then you're out of luck according to the bank. So this is my banking advice. I personally would make sure you dilute it. Cryptocurrency is also kind of on that scale. Coinbase, for example, I worry about the funds in there with crypto crashing so much. So if you have a large amount of crypto, in a non-ready or non-proven exchange network, maybe you want to move it to a Coinbase or something very reputable like a crypto.com or some of these other ones. So check with your advisor. However, I definitely think that crypto may be the next to go as well, or these exchange networks. Now there's many billions in crypto. However, there's also many billions in the banks. And what's funny is with all this money in the banks, I bet you can't go to your bank and request, let's say 400 grand to pull out from your account that may hold $1 million right away, which is insane. So that's my bank story. Don't keep all your money in the bank. Stay away. And banks, if someone ever watches this, you have to raise that FDIC limit. It's just ridiculous. $250,000 no longer works in today's society. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment below what you think. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, do so. And I'll check you here in the next one.